welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is abundance teacher and money coach, Jody Lynn Creighton.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. I don't know about you, Jody Lynn, but whenever we're talking about energy, I get a little bit excited. I mean, energy, it's an exciting thing. Energy excites you. That's where, all the life comes from and so forth. But I just like the topic.
Yeah.
I
love it too.
Because, well, first of all, you never know where it's going to go, except you do know it's always going to go someplace that ties into our interconnection with who we are. And I think that's why I like it so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting very much the same thing today with our guest, Tara Wiskow, who is from Minnesota and is an energy coach. So very appropriate for what we're going to be talking about. Tara, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm fantastic. How are the both of you?
We're doing great.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good.
And you got to give us the potted biography or autobiography. Like, give us an idea of what you went through that made you decide to be an energy coach. Because whenever you're talking about energy healing or energy coaching, there's always a story behind it. And that story kind of creates the foundation for what happens. So give us the foundation.
Absolutely. It truly started when I was 8 years old. And I think oftentimes anybody that steps into energy healing, energy coaching, you have no idea what's coming for you in the future. You don't understand why you're so sensitive, why it feels like you're the only one that doesn't fit in. Common thing that you call yourself is the black sheep of the family. I've called myself that for years. Or why you feel like your life is so full of boulders that you have to crawl over the most difficult journey to get through to get to the other side. And that's what I found with my journey as I've compared it to other healers. And I really started to understand why I started at a young age and why it continued throughout the majority of my life. And so at 8 years old, it was my birthday party, also Easter. And so we were having this big shindig, as we always did up in Minnesota. We have to have the smorgasbord and the full on, all the meals. And I'm outside with my cousins and my sisters waiting for everything to get started. And my aunt comes up to me and she says, "Tara Lynn, I saw your dad today." And I said, "Well, I know. He's in the house." And she said, "Well, not your dad, Junior, silly, your dad, Bruce." Now, I didn't have a dad named Bruce. My dad was Junior. However, there's this guy named Bruce that was pretty much at every single family event, and he was there on this day. So I remember my gears turning, and I ran into the house, and I asked my mom, "Is that my dad?" He was sitting there in the kitchen, and I remember everything in the kitchen just going stone dead silent.
Of course.
Right? Poor Bruce.
That is the setup. I mean, wow.
Poor Bruce is like sweating, panicking. The poor guy is like unsure what he should do. And my mom looked at me and she said, "Get back outside." She was so angry. And so I left the kitchen wondering what was going on. And things started to click for me because I'm brown hair and brown eyes. For those of you that can't see me and are just listening, my entire family, my mom, my dad, my two sisters, they're blonde hair, blue eyes. So it started to make sense why people were asking, "Are you adopted?" Never understood what adopted meant until that moment. And when I dropped into that at a young age, I started to see everything about me that was different. Not only my appearance, how I laughed, what I liked, the things that I chose to be part of, the foods I ate, everything was different from my entire family. What I later discovered, I did have a dad named Bruce. He chose not to have me in his life when I was born. And I later met him when I was 12. And the moment that I met him was a moment where I finally felt like I belonged. I was looking at an exact replica of myself. Everything was the same. Our laugh, the things we like to eat, the things we like to do, everything was exact. And so for the very first time at the age of 12, I was like, okay, I belong. I figured it out. It's kind of like Winnie the Pooh movie where Tigger's looking for his family and finding his family, right? So much like everything went to hell in a handbasket for everybody's costumes on Winnie the Pooh, that happened for me at 15 when my dad passed of cancer, just like that. 3 years in my life, and he's gone. I felt abandoned by him all over again. And what happened from there is I turned to food. food became my best friend. It never disappointed me. I always knew what it was going to taste like, what it was going to smell like. I knew it was going to give me the emotional support that I needed. And so a few years later, I'm looking at 338 pounds. I'm deemed morbidly obese.
Wow.
I'm struggling with anxiety, depression, and I am completely lost. I've disconnected. And that led me to eating disorders, anything and everything to try to lose the weight, yo-yo dieting, never successfully losing it. And I became suicidal. Like, as a mom of 3 boys, I was such a disappointment. I wasn't the mom that I wanted to be. I wanted to be the one that I felt like I didn't have, the parent that I felt like I didn't get in my life. I wanted to be that for them, and I was disappointing them. I was a disappointment to myself. And so suicide was my outlet of what I thought was the right answer. And that was my first experience of divine intervention. I know on that day, I locked my bedroom door and it became unlocked. And my middle son walked in and saved my life by asking me, "Are you going to die, Mama?" And that question helped me realize that I can choose. I have a choice. And until that moment, I thought that life was given to me, and whatever life I got, that's the life you lived. And if you didn't like it, that's too bad. You just figure it out, right? And so many other women in the world, men included, I work with women, so I always speak about women's experiences, feel the same way, that you just have to figure out how to live your life. But him asking me that question helped me realize and pull myself out of that place and know, wow, I can choose. You're asking me if I'm going to live or if I'm like, so I have a choice. And that's when everything started to shift for me. And I started to tap into learning to love myself. And from there, I lost 220 pounds and took my life back. I did it on my own. And it was the most difficult and beautiful journey that I'd ever experienced for myself. And then 2.5 years ago, I lost my sister to cancer. She was diagnosed at Christmas, and June, at the age of 39, she left. We had to make that hard decision to let her go. And that was when some people call it the dark night of the soul. That's the moment where I knew from an experience of going into a meditation, the very first meditation I've ever been able to meditate in at that time of my life, meeting Trisha there, she led me to my higher self. And my higher self said to me, "Tara, I've waited a very long time for you to show up. So glad you're here. You're a healer. You've always been a healer, and the world needs you now more than ever." And in that moment, for the very first time, I finally felt like I knew why I was created and what my purpose was. I'd question. I felt like something was missing every day before that. And I realized I was what was missing. I wasn't showing up as my truth. And in that moment, in that meditation, I remember sitting on that bench thinking, oh my gosh, this is it. This is who I am, and feeling found. And I looked at Trisha to tell her, like, did you know this, to ask her in the meditation? And she was gone. And I had to leave that meditation, walk down that path that I'd come up that path with Trisha by my side. And I had to walk it alone. And that walking alone, I remember crying through the meditation. I came out of the meditation crying. I had to walk that alone to choose to be a healer all the way out, so that when I exited it, I knew that I was a healer and that I was making that decision to become that one from that day forward. So that's my journey of how I stepped into this calling, how it became me today.
It's fascinating, beautifully told, by the way. It's a fascinating thing how these very traumatic events that go on in our lives are also the ones that set us up for what many of us call our real lives.
True.
You pretty much described it that way. I mean, those are my words rather than your words, but that's pretty much what you described. You found your real life.
Yes, beautifully said. I love that. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say Walt told me I found my real life. I love it.
It's funny. It's amazing. Well, one of the other themes that happens a lot, Jody Lynn knows this from her many years being on the show too, is we get people who come out of the show, they tell their story. It has the crash and burn moment or moments. and they come out the other side. And I have yet to find an exception to this rule. They all agree that while they never want to go through it again, it was the best thing that ever happened.
Yes.
See, there we go again. Perfect record.
Yes. I don't think you're ever going to strike out on that.
Probably not. No. But honestly, it would have. It actually did shock me the first time that was presented to me. This is my 14th year doing the show. I'm 13 and a half years into it. My 12th interview still does shows with me. And he was the first one who proposed that idea to me. And when he said it to me during a show, I thought he was absolutely nuts. Now, today, I think completely differently about it. But at that time, that seemed incomprehensible to me, that you could actually count on the worst thing that happened as the best thing that happened. And so that's why I like bringing it up, because every time everybody says it.
Yeah. I always feel like if we think about a seed that's planted, imagine the journey that it goes through, right? And when it gets to the top of that, the soil, it's so crusted and hard from the water, the sun, everything that's baked it. And that seed, it's much like what you're talking about. The worst thing that you experience in your life is your breakthrough. That's what that seed has to go through, break through the hardest part of the soil to finally be able to come through and be able to be alive, right? Out in the world, seen, known, in existence. And that's exactly like when we go through that breakthrough, which is the hardest thing we have to experience, brings us into that time of our life where we're seen and known and in existence of who we're meant to be at that point.
One of my favorite analogies that describes that is the analogy of the butterfly emerging from the chrysalis, and how the butterfly has to beat its wings in order to get its way out. And that's how it strengthens its wings so it can fly. If it doesn't get the chance to strengthen its wings, it can't fly and it dies. Yeah.
Beautiful. So powerful.
Yeah. And a little bit alarming too.
Yes. But we see so many butterflies flying, so we know that it works.
It does work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, for me, the alarming part is because I first heard that in the context of a story, the story being of a boy who rescued the butterfly from beating his wings, and the butterfly died, and his master explained to him what happened. How many times do we actually keep people from beating their wings against the chrysalis?
Oh my gosh. Well, that is extremely amazing when we think about the concept of that. But how many times do we do that to ourselves? Because we self-abandon, right? Like we don't let ourselves beat our wings so that we can become stronger. And that's a lot of the work that I do in that subconscious space, because subconsciously, I mean, your brain's number one job is to protect you. And that's what it does, right? So if beating your wings is hard and scary and uncomfortable, your brain says, don't do it because it doesn't feel good. Yet that's the one thing that you need to do. And when we can bring our subconscious and our unconscious on the same page to understand that I'm safe to do this and it's necessary for me to do this, then we can start to understand that I have to let myself do this. And it gives us that power and that willingness to do what is really, really uncomfortable.
So Jodie, you agree? I mean, we're definitely on the same wavelength that this is all about an energy thing. This show that we're doing, this is like the most fun thing we could do, and Tara just really hit on why that is.
100%, yes, and why it's so important.
Yes, so true.
I think it's so interesting how we, at all costs, we avoid that pain. Trying not to be in it or like beat ourselves up, especially when it comes to like the law of attraction. If we stumble upon the same roadblock or thing that we were bothered by before, we didn't want, we're like, there's something wrong with me. And no, it's just another opportunity to strengthen your wings, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How nice to be able to recognize that too.
Yeah. I mean, it's easier outside. Yeah. It's easier outside of the moment to recognize it and be like, I want to be able to be strong. But when you're in it, it's a little tougher.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the challenge, right? To recognize it when you're in it. Because, I mean, like you were saying, Tara, that's when we beat the crap out of ourselves. Yeah. And it's pretty hard to recognize something when you're in the midst of beating the hell out of yourself. I mean, it's possible. We do it, but that's when it's hardest.
It is. And awareness, I always say awareness is the number one way to get yourself out of anything. Like change doesn't happen until you're aware. Change has to happen. And you have to start really going inward to understand what's working, what's not working, why do I spiral, what's my triggers. And when we can connect with that, then that gives us that ability to be aware when we're spiraling, when we're in the heat of the moment and we're totally derailing ourselves. We become aware of those cycles and patterns, then we can start pulling ourselves out of it. But as long as we live out of awareness, we're never going to make the changes that we need.
And speaking for myself, I imagine probably similar to what you guys have experienced. I've also found that particularly in those moments of crisis, but even not in the moments of crisis, when I can cut myself slack, find ways to not be as much of a perfectionist, find ways to actually love myself, find ways to actually feel good about what I'm doing and what's going on in my life, and not be judging and critical of everything all the time, but actually enjoying some of it for a change, which is a nice change to do. The more that I find myself doing that, this is one of the things that amazes me the most. The more that I end up doing that, the more other people like me.
Isn't that interesting?
I mean, intuitively, that's like, what are you talking about? But I mean, obviously it makes sense. The kinder you are to yourself, the more kind you're going to be toward others. So of course they're going to like you better. But it seems, why does it seem so counterintuitive? I don't quite understand why. And yet I know it does.
Well, and if you think about it, is it true that they didn't like you before, or is it your own perceptions of not liking yourself that you perceived onto them that made you, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It happens all the time. I had one of my women, my client, she went out to the grocery store. She called me afterwards, crying, so angry. And I asked her, like, what is going on? She said, I just want to go to the grocery store wearing pajamas without being judged. I said, well, who judged you? And she's talking to me about this woman that looked at her funny. And so she believed that she was judging her because she went in her pajamas. I said, well, is it 100% true that she was judging you? And she said, well, I can't say 100% for sure. I said, well, if we looked at it a different way, what could she have been doing? She said, well, maybe she wished she could wear her pajamas. I said, there you go. Like, you went to the store thinking somebody's going to judge you. So the first person that looked at you in a peculiar way, you instantly jumped on the bandwagon. She's judging me. However, she could have been envious. She could have wished she had your pajamas. She could have wished that she was that daring and courageous to go in her pajamas. Or she could have had a gas cramp and it had nothing to do with you at all.
That's one of the most alarming things, when we finally recognize and realize that all those things we thought people were thinking we were wrong almost 100% of the time.
Yes. And they're our own thoughts that we believe other people are thinking about us. That is so powerful for us to connect with when we're thinking other people are thinking those things. And if we really stop and ask ourselves, how many of these thoughts that we think others are thinking of us are actually the things that we think and say about ourselves every single day? And we don't connect with it because 95% of our life is spent in our unconscious space. That's where we're an autopilot. And a lot of this comes from our past lives, passed down generationally. They're imprinted in our life from, when we're in the womb, during our birth, our imprinting phase of 0 to 7 years old. And so these thoughts are cycling and we're not even aware of them until we start doing healing work, until we start to really shift and connect ourselves, that we start to hear the thoughts. We hear that negative chatter going on. Then we're aware, oh, I think Betty Lou is saying this about me, but I just said that about myself 30 minutes ago. So is it Betty Lou or is it me? Then we start to connect with that and understand it's really our own inner dialogue that we think everybody else thinks. We're the ones that are most violent to ourselves with the words and the thoughts that we have.
Yeah, we're brutal.
Yeah. And I think compounding on top of that is the energy that we're putting out there. If we're coming from a place knowingly or unknowingly, mostly unknowingly, of like being defensive, feeling judged, feeling like we're bad or wrong or whatever it is that the conversation is in our own minds, that's the energy that we're putting out there. Yes. So of course we're going to run into accusatory assholes everywhere, right? Like it's honestly going to happen. And it's so funny. I have had a couple of really big moments where I questioned whether it was me or it was my own thoughts, whatever, and had the courage to ask the question and was blown away. But one conversation in particular, I'll share with you guys. Growing up, my brother was a rodeo clown. And so like everybody loves the rodeo clown, like all the ladies, all the guys, like he's just the most popular guy in the room. And so I always felt like I was the black sheep. I was the one that was in the shadows. No one really noticed me or like whatever. I was there, but nobody really cared that I was there. And it was so funny because I've done a lot of work around that part, around my brother, and really just seeing that like it's more of an and not or conversation. Like just because he's got all these great, wonderful things doesn't mean that I don't, or because he got them, I lack them. And I've done all of this growth around it. But at Christmas last year, we were having a couple of drinks, and my cousin, who had actually helped my brother clown, like he was another part of the act and, whatever. And he was young when he started this with my brother. He was like 14 or 15 or something like that. And then went all the way up to, I think 17 is like their time together. And I was racing horses back then too. So I was on the rodeo scene and I would go party with them or whatever. And again, in the back of my mind had this thought of like, just not being seen, like nobody really cares, especially my cousin. Like, oh, he's a young boy. Obviously he cares about my brother. He's like his sidekick, whatever, it's Zigzag and Zachary Yo-Yo, no big deal, right? Like I just didn't fit in there. And so we're having this conversation at Christmas. Now my cousin is grown up. He's in his, 20s or almost 30. And we're at his house. He's hosting, he's married, they're working on a family and he's hammered. And we start talking and he said, you know what? I got to tell you, Jody, you were so instrumental to my life. Oh. And I thought, huh? What? What do you mean? He's like, and I know that he was liquored up, but sometimes the truth really comes out then. But I was kind of like, taken aback, like, what are you talking about? And he said, you're like, when we were younger, you were like my spirit animal. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. He's like, I just really looked up to you. And I'm like, in my head, all of these thoughts are coming through of like, I thought you didn't like notice me or care about me. Like I didn't realize that I had any influence on your life at all. And he said, you know what, hanging out with Cody was great. That's my brother's name. And he was awesome. And it was great to hang out with him. And he's like, but I always knew if I needed to a pick me up or a good time, I'd go find Jody. He's like, you were the best person to hang out with back then. You always made sure I had a good time. If I didn't look like I was having fun, you'd grab me by the hand and be like, all right, let's go dance or let's go get some shots or whatever. And it really made a difference. And I was struck by that conversation because I honestly thought, like, not in a bad way, but just that he could care less about me. Like, we're cousins, he loves me, whatever. But I had no idea of the impact I was making. And it was all because of what I was saying to myself back then.
Yeah. Wow. That is a powerful story that so many can connect with and see themselves in. I'm so glad that you shared that. That happens often.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow.
Such a great example.
Yeah.
It's such a great example of how we can get the wrong idea, live by the wrong idea, corner ourselves with the wrong idea, and then discover, oops.
Yeah. Well, so often it's the limiting beliefs, when I uncovered that we're full of, you hear limiting beliefs all the time, like, oh, that's a limiting belief. It's just kind of like casually thrown out there. Oh, that's a limiting belief. And you're not really taught what a limiting belief really is, or that you can do anything. It's like, oh, I know I have a limiting belief. So what? Guess that's what it is. You're not really given the tools of what to do to fully release it. They talk about reframing it. So reframe it from being a limiting belief to an empowering belief. And so you do that work to work on it. And while I love that, it's also so powerful for me to know that we can actually utilize healing modalities to release it out of your being, to take it out of your inner part of your body, out of your mind, so that it no longer exists. And so, like Jody Lynn, when you're talking about that, your limiting beliefs that you're living behind is, I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of accepting. I'll never be popular. I'll never matter. And as I'm saying that, my whole body is vibrating. And so it still pegs you, still something that might be what you come up against at times when you're coming into a new experience or starting something new, right? And so those limiting beliefs are the reason why we capture that moment of doubt in ourselves. And then we create identities, which is another passion of mine, of all the identities, the masks that we live behind, because we be who we think we have to be in order to be good enough to be accepted. And it's how we handle these limiting beliefs, because we don't know that we can release them fully out of our being.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm glad that you brought up the idea of releasing these, permanently releasing them. Certainly, that's been a topic here on the show over the years. If there's a modality out there, I've probably heard about it and tried a few of them too. But I'm curious to know which ones what do you hang your hat on? What are the ones that you say, okay, these are my meat and potatoes. These are the ones I can count on every time. They're the ones that my clients count on every time, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So neuro-linguistic programming, mental emotional release, that's where we are releasing the limiting beliefs, releasing the negative emotions, working in that subconscious space so that we can bring it on board with the conscious. That I use that in every single session that I do with women. And then also integrated energy therapy. It's like Reiki, but different. And so in that, I'm working with the 4 different bodies where I'm going into past lives. I'm going into generational breakdowns, traumas, childhood, this life imprinted in, and I'm releasing out all the negative energy in different parts of your body. So releasing out doubt and distrust, anger, sadness, all of those negative emotions that are actually blocking us. And then I integrate in the positive, because anytime we take out something out of our body, if we don't put something back in, now we have this gaping hole that anything can come in. And as humans, most of us are empaths. We don't protect our energetic field. So we're out and about in the grocery store or in the park, and we're crossing paths with people, and they're wanting to get rid of sludge and garbage and junk. And we are this acceptor. We're like, I'll take your garbage. And so we take it on. And now that empty space is full of this anger or this lack or whatever it is. And then we're confused. So I love the integrated energy therapy as well as we release. So those are my 2 primary that I utilize every single time I go into a session.
That second one, the integrated energy, it almost sounds like it's a cross between Reiki and shadow work.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Absolutely. I don't fully understand Reiki. I haven't dropped into it a lot. I just know that it's similar. And so for me, I think that Reiki, they don't, if I remember correctly, they don't have hands on. For me, I have hand placements. Like I'm on the top of the head, I'll be on the shoulders, their back, right on their chest, on their neck, on their side. So I go to their spleen, I'm in their adrenals, I'm in their kidneys, I'm in their liver. These are the areas where we store different negative emotions. So my hand on every time, like my right hand vibrates. That's where your 5 chakras are. And then I release out with my left hand. I'm connected into the 7th plane, which is where God, the universe, the higher power is. And I'm connected in. And that allows me to take on whatever I need to release out of them, and I send it up, but then I'm able to be the vessel of bringing in for them as well. So I feel like it's a little bit different in that respect. And the other piece is that I bring in archangels. So I have 9 different archangels that I use every single healing. Michael is one of my prominent that I bring in. Raphael is very, very strong. Ariel is strong. So I have strong archangels that come in and they actually help me with the releasing and the healing too.
That's actually not all that different from Reiki practitioner.
Okay.
Reiki actually, I'm Reiki 2 level, so that's where my
Got it. Okay.
And Reiki gets practiced in different ways by every single practitioner I've ever encountered.
Maybe that's why it's so confusing.
It is, yeah. I mean, you mentioned the thing about touching versus not touching. I'm a hoverer. I never touch.
See,
but
okay.
I've worked with Reiki practitioners. All they do is touch. And there are some who are halfway in between, and and a lot of them start with the head and shoulders, like you were talking about. Others start at the feet. I mean, it varies. Every one of them varies. I hadn't heard of anybody talk about using the right hand to pull the energy and the left hand to release. I hadn't heard that particular one before, but it doesn't surprise me because everybody does it differently.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah. And I truly find, I mean, some women, I've never had nobody not wanting that hand on. My clients that come to me, I am such a hugger and I am like, just that's me. And so most of the women that come to me, having my touch calms them and gives them that ability to relax. And also I find like it says to start at the head. However, there are moments where I have to start in the kidney because they're so full of fear that there's nothing that I'm going to be able to release because their body is so bound in fear that I have to start there. And then I have to implement in safety. That's the only way I'm going to be able to get any other part of their body to release anything. So it has to be personalized too, to each client that's on my table.
It has to be personalized to you too, because you're the one who is providing the service to help them with their energy flow. That's what Reiki is, life force energy. It's the flow of life force. And that's what you're helping to do. You're helping to do what they're actually doing the healing. You're just helping it move along.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I love that. So often we don't realize, like, I think it's easy as healers to forget to say that all healing is self-healing. And I think sometimes I get a little cautious because I had one woman, when I told her that, like, all healing is self-healing, she completely shut down. She said, well, this isn't going to work then. Like, they might as well just quit now because everything I've tried and failed at anyway.
Oh, no.
I was like, oh, shoot. Well, we just bombed that one, Tara. Good job. I was able to bring her out and calm her down and help her with, starting with releasing that limiting belief to get her into that state of receiving and healing.
That's great that you were able to help her to do that, because obviously that was the one that was blocking her more than anything else.
Yes, so true. So true.
That to me has got, I mean, I've never really had the desire. Jody Lynn is a coach like you are. I've never really had the desire to be a coach, but if I was a coach, that would be the thing I'd want. I'd want to have the experience of knowing I helped somebody on the most important thing that they wanted to be helped on, or that they needed to be helped on. Maybe they didn't even know they needed to be helped on it.
Yes. I think that's the hardest part. Jody Lynn, do you agree? Being a coach, it's like they come to you saying they want this and you're feeling into it thinking, man, what you want is not what you need. And you have to like navigate it. It's like trying to find the needle in the haystack of like, what the hell do they really freaking need here? Because it doesn't look like that. Right?
And what they think is the problem, you're like, no, that's not, no, like this is the surface and that's where you're at. And like where I feel it is way down here. Like, how do we get you here? Most of my coaching is around money. And it's so funny because people will get to a certain point and they'll be like, no, I'm good. They do a lot of personal development, work with law of attraction. And they're like, no, I'm happy. Then why are you here? Like if everything's perfect, then why'd you call me up? Why'd you pay money to me? Well, it could be better. Okay. Like, and you can feel the energetic signature there. You're like, oh, there's something. Like you're lying, but you're trying to lie to me. You can't lie to me. You can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to me. I can feel it.
Exactly. Yes. That's one of the perks about being intuitive is I'll just ask, can I pull you in? They're like, sure. I pull them in and I'm like, oh, okay, we got this. You know, like, remember when you went to the grocery store with Grandpa John and he smacked your hand because you spent too much money? Yeah. Well, there we go. This is why we have a money trauma, a money wound. You're terrified of spending too much because you were mortified that Grandpa John got mad at you. Right?
It's so simple. Yeah.
Yeah, it is those simple things that are the most damaging, which is why we overlook them and think that could never be why they're the issue.
I would even suggest that it is as much that they're simple, although they usually are. It's that they were recurring. Yeah. Because the more it occurs, obviously, I mean, that's the way the nervous system works. You know, neuroplasticity means that the more that you apply something, the more it becomes embedded into the system. And, you know, so when you experience the same thing over and over again as a child, it's going to play out when you get to be an adult. I mean, that's just the way it's going to work. Until you rewrite that programming, it's not going to change.
So true. Yeah. And and it recurs in a different way every single time. So it eludes us to see the connectivity between the two of it until you really look at the pattern of, oh, when this happens, I have this behavior or this emotion. Where I find that for myself and all the healing I've done, I didn't see how it connected together, that they were the same until I connected the emotion and the behavior that came from it. Then it made sense to me.
Well, to me also, that's how I tied together the idea of I needed to accept responsibility, because I always thought the accepting responsibility was about, I did something wrong, I have to recognize I did something wrong. It isn't really that at all. It's accepting responsibility for the fact that I'm the common denominator to all the experiences.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a very different thing.
It is. Absolutely. I say that all the time. We're not here to do this to shame, blame, ridicule, cut you, nothing. Like, that's not why when I want you to go in and connect with something, I don't want you blaming or shaming or feeling bad. This is awareness so that we can understand. And like you said, then accept that responsibility, because then we can then heal through it. Yeah.
Well, even the words responsibility and accepting responsibility, they also have their own little tang attached to them.
Yeah.
Whereas the actual root of the word responsible means able to respond. It has really no other meaning other than the ones that we tend to give it for the rest of society. But nevertheless, that's the core meaning. I am able to respond to this thing that has always been about me. That's what the responsibility is.
Exactly. And it all started 500 years ago when somebody said, you have to be responsible for your actions. Right. Responsibility. 500 years later, we're still traumatized by it.
Still got the beating stick out.
No, not again. Not again. It is a challenge. It's also what the core of doing the work on yourself is all about. Interesting how we often, and I've heard this so many different times, particularly from people who are in the middle of it, and quite understandably, we describe it as being hard to do the work. This is the work, right? This connecting stuff together in our life experience and all the ways that we connect in. That's what's called doing the work. And people perceive it as being hard, largely because they're running into a lot of stuff that they set up along the way, and now they're having to actually come to grips with that thing.
Yeah.
So we perceive it as a hard thing. And it always struck me as being, I totally get why we do that, but amazing how counterintuitive that is to what we really want to do, because the more that we make it hard, the more we make it hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't get easy until we let go of that part.
Surrender to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that we make it hard on purpose because 1, fear of failure, 2, fear of success, 3, fear of the unknown. And so we're sabotaging and doing our best to keep ourselves rooted in our comfort zone so that we don't experience something that we're afraid of experiencing. And I think also we say that it's hard, we make it hard just because we don't want to do the work. And right? I mean, if I'm really honest, that's what I find with myself. I would rather, in some things that my husband wants me to do on the honey to-do list, I'm like, oh man, that's way too hard. I'm not doing it today. It's really not hard. It'll take me 4 minutes or less. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah. It's interesting how we build that up in our minds. Like, oh my God, this is going to take me forever. I'm never going to get through this. It's like, okay, literally, you have to put the dishes away.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Yes. I'm going to cut my finger on all of the utensils in there. I mean, you come up with all these ridiculous excuses just not to do it. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then when you do it, you feel so accomplished. You're like, oh my gosh, I did that. It feels so good now that it's done.
Yeah.
I had a discussion with my niece recently, who had a very interesting take on mindset. And I brought this up a couple times lately, but I want to bring it up here. She had heard, I guess she had seen one of these memes. She's young. She's in her late 20s. She's got one daughter. They're preparing to have another child. And they just recently, within the last year, bought their first home. And she's saw one of these memes passed around about how hard it is for people to buy homes compared to what happened 50 years ago. And there was the idea is 50 years ago, it was so much easier to buy a home. Now it's not so easy to buy a home, yada, yada. And so I was kind of challenging around that and pointing out from her own experience how it really wasn't adding up the way she thought it was. And she said, well, you know, I know what you're saying, but I get so sick of this mindset thing. I'd rather we just get up off our butts and go do something. And I said to her, well, you realize that's a mindset, right? And she said, oh, yeah.
Yes, they are connected. Yes. Oh, so funny.
Oh,
So, I mean, it could work either way, right? You could actually build yourself up and get really excited about doing something and feel like that the work you have to do is going to slow you down, or you can feel like the work is going to prevent you from getting up in the first place. You can do it either way.
Yes, you are right. You nailed it.
I love that one. And Mickey, if you're listening, and I love you too.
You share it in love and lesson for everybody listening.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
But it is amazing how we find all these different ways to just trap ourselves. And we're really good at it. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess if you do it long enough, it's like any skill, right? You develop the skill over time.
Yeah, we get very good at it. And those are the hard ones to get ungood at, right? Changing like you said, that neuroplasticity, we need to shift those neural pathways in our brain because they're so etched in keeping ourselves stuck or sabotaging ourselves or abandoning ourselves or people pleasing. They're so etched in our brain. And what we don't realize is that we can put that road closed in front of it and choose a new habit. And when we choose a new habit, eventually that pathway totally closes. And we've now developed a new pathway for ourselves that actually is healthy and benefits us and brings us into a state of abundance and receiving so many beautiful things that we once didn't.
And it's exciting to know that there actually is science to back what you're saying. I mean, it's science that I think most of us are pretty much aware of now. There's been so much talk about it. People have developed at least some awareness of how that works. They may not know all the terms. They may not understand. If you say neuroplasticity, they may not know what you're talking about, but they get the gist of it. They get the general idea of it.
Yeah. That's why I like to break it down. You know, like I put it in my language. You have pathways in your brain that you can put the roadblock in and you can create new pathways. Yeah, I find that easier for me to connect. And I feel like listeners that are listening on the fly, because let's be real, everybody is multitasking today. It's very rare to find somebody just sitting there listening. There are some of you amazing, beautiful, talented souls that do that. And I love that for you. I'm not one. I need to speak in simple terms so I can connect with it.
Well, I mean, speaking for myself, what I've learned is I really don't do well when I multitask, but I know I have multiple things that I want to get done. So I try to break it up into segments. Just do this, just do that, just do that. If I have to focus on just one thing, that's probably going to get me after a while. You know, but if I can break my day up into this chunk, this chunk, this chunk, I can do that. If I try to do both chunks at once, forget it. I'm like a lost soul. It's terrible. It's really an awful sight.
At least you know what's good and what doesn't work for you.
Well, yeah. I mean, you learn after a while, right?
Yeah.
What you're doing, Walt, is called time management. I'm still
that's right.
I cannot tell you how many times I've been asked, how's your time management? Oh, it's good. Don't ask me to tell you. But it's good.
Well, actually, I never really thought about it in terms of time management when I was learning to kind of organize my day that way. The way I thought about it was in terms of pre-paving. Like the basic law of attraction concept. You pre-pave where you want your day to go. So I would manage it in terms of not what I'm going to do for the rest of the day, but what's the next thing I'm going to be doing after this. So focus on that for a moment, and then I can go back to doing my task so that when I have reached my stopping point, I can go do that other thing and have a good experience doing it. It was the pre-paving aspect that I was trying to tap into. It turned into time management, but that's not what it was intended to
be. That's going back to what Jody Lynn and I were talking about. What you think you needed or what you thought you wanted, but what you really needed is what you got. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. I love that. Oh, pre-paving. I have to write that down because I've heard of it, but I've not heard enough of it. So I need to drop into that. I like
Okay.
that.
Well, Jolene, you know the concept. How do you think of it?
Kind of exactly the way that you described it, was like setting out the intention of how the day is going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you're going to focus on.
Yeah.
See, that sounds so much more enjoyable to me than time management.
Oh, yeah.
Insane.
Feels less restrictive. Also, like,
Yeah.
if you're
And there are no outlines.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Like creative, because now I'm saying I am pre-paving my day.
Mm-hmm.
See? I like
Sounds
that.
fun.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about it is, because of the law of attraction aspect to it, you really are laying out how your day is going to go. Not that every day is going to be perfect. That's not what I mean by it. I mean that your day is going to predominantly return to you the same thing that you're giving your attention to.
Yes.
And that, if you want any way to validate for yourself that your attention, your energy matters, do that. Because that practice will build it into your system faster than anything else I know of, short of perhaps mirror work or some modality like that. But in terms of a day-to-day practice, it's easy because it's just part of what you do in your day. It's not like you have to build a special time in. It's not like I have to meditate now, or I have to go to the gym, or I have to go. It's not like that. It's just, what am I going to do next?
Beautiful.
And I found that that's so much easier than like a strict schedule, because I found over time I was really good at scheduling things, but when life happened, whatever, you have a longer lunch break or a meeting runs late or whatever, my whole day would go to hell in a handbasket. And it was energetically, it didn't feel safe for me because I was supposed to be here and I was supposed to be doing this. So my whole system would be off the rails. And then the rest of the day was crap. So I couldn't be so restrictive in that way. And in my journey of understanding and really like reconnecting with my body and me and my higher self and like tapping in, I wanted to have more fluidity in my day. And that practice of like having the intention of the different things that you're paving or whatever you want to accomplish today, that gave me that flexibility to be creative and, not overwhelm myself with the finite details of like, oh, at 12 o'clock, I said I would do this. And oh my God, it's 12:30 and I'm not even close to doing that thing. Because that would just drive me crazy.
Yeah.
What you don't know, Tara, this is really, really cool that Jody Lynn's telling this. And what I'm about to say, she's told us this part too. She, for many years, was one of the most driven entrepreneurs you have ever seen in your life. Everything, she took charge of everything. She made everything happen. She had team working with her who did the same thing. Driven. It took her all that time of driving herself to realize what she just described to you.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Man, we sound like we walk similar paths. I can totally resonate with that. Absolutely. And I'm in the flow. I don't do like the pre-paving. Maybe I do it without realizing it, but I'm in the flow now. Whereas before I would follow it. It's like, okay, I have to do this and this and this. And I'd had it color coordinated to know this at this time and all this craziness. And I was just going loony bin because the colors were switching. And I was like trying to, by the time I was done, I got nothing done but changing my damn freaking time management bullshit. Like drove me nuts.
That's right.
Now I'm in flow. I'm in flow and I'm just enjoying what I do and I'm loving every second of it. And I'm showing up with what feels right, listening to my spirit guides, getting the guidance that I need and knowing that I'm on path, looking for those signs. So
did you color code, Jody Lynn? I've never remember hearing you talk about color coding. So I'm just kind of curious.
No, but I love paper. I'm so old school with how I run my business even now today. I actually got like a Kindle Scribe because I love paper so much and I just have trouble transcribing my own notes. And then I just lose sticky notes and notes everywhere on pieces of paper. So I got a Kindle Scribe so it'll translate it for me and I can be better at tracking things, but everything was on paper. And I was hyper focused on having a 6 and an 8 is what we would call it in the financial business, where you'd have a 6 p.m. and an 8 p.m. And then that's all that I would do, 6 and an 8, 5 days a week. If you get appointments on Saturday, Sunday, just filling my schedule to the brim. So it was on paper. And then I was psychotic about my daily 5. And the daily 5 in that business was reading 10 pages, reading your goals. Now I haven't done it in a long time, so I don't even remember.
Which is a good thing, by the way.
Yeah, making 10 contacts. There was a couple of other ones, but like it was do or die for me. But the mindset behind it was that you have to, like, regardless of whether you feel good or you don't feel good or whatever, the only way to succeed was to do these 5 things. And what's crazy is that, like, the people in my business that were successful and like the leadership teams and stuff, they would talk about the daily 5 and, you know, doing this every day and blah, blah, blah. And what I got in my head was that they did it with perfection. And that I must do it with perfection. And then it came out like, I don't know, I was a year into the business, and I got invited to like a leadership meeting or something, and they were like having whiskeys and we're sitting around talking, and then the truth comes out. Oh yeah, I get like one day in on my daily 5, and I'm like, are you flipping kidding me? Like, I'm killing myself. Like, I will never miss. Like, went out at 11:30 at night because I didn't hit my, like, I had a prospecting number that I would prospect X amount of people every single day. I made that commitment. That was part of the daily 5 at one point. And it was 11:30 at night, and I just put on my pajamas, and I was so tired. And I was, you know, at the office for like 8 o'clock in the morning. And so long day. I was exhausted. And I was like, I must go out. I literally went to like the only 7-Eleven that was open and prospected the guy behind the counter, because no, he wasn't the right target market. No, he probably didn't want to talk to me about that in particular. He probably wanted to talk about other things, but I just needed to do it. Like, that's how psychotic I was. I never gave myself a break. But then I went down the burnout train where I was literally physically breaking down. Like, I couldn't have any capacity to even feed myself on Saturdays. My life was so empty. And I was like, oh, this is not a good habit for me. Not good at all. But, you know, the pendulum swings.
Yeah.
It does. And you learn.
Exactly.
There's a big lesson in that whole experience that 100%. You received. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, they're good habits. And I think that some of them are good habits, but I never gave myself any grace or allowed myself any creativity or experience or personality inside any of those things. It was so robotic and it wasn't me. So in a way, I was pushing away the things that I really wanted to, because I was so aggressive and so granular on it. Oh, it had to be like this. When I really started to open up and flow with things and allow myself to be moved by the energy, by spirit, and by my own intuition, things started to happen even faster. I didn't have to do all the work.
Yeah. And that's being authentic, which that is something that I strive so hard to help women do, is be their authentic self. Like, and that is like following something that works, taking those 5 steps and implementing it in the way that works for you, because that's you, and allowing yourself to trust that, which then brings us to a whole nother topic that we don't have time for. And that's self-trust, of trusting yourself to know that you know the way to do what needs to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, I can think of a few topics I want to address. I mean, like you said, there's not enough time to do it, but you mentioned the word authentic. That actually has become, I won't say a negative word, but it's become a word where I get a little bit skeptical, because it's being used in so many different ways by so many different people today, to the point where it almost doesn't even have meaning anymore. I know what you mean. I can tell what you mean by it, and it's very similar to what I've always felt about it. But it's gotten to the point now that being authentic, God, it means such a wide range of things. It could be literally nothing more than being what somebody else wants you to be, depending on how some people define it.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary, really.
Yeah. I did a live video on this, talking about how in the past I used to think being authentic was meaning that I changed my personality and self in order to please somebody else. That's what I thought it meant, that if I'm authentic, then that's what I have to do, because then they like me and love me. That means I'm authentic. I had no idea that authenticity is saying, kiss my ass, the door's over there. This is me. And if you don't like it, that's too damn bad. Like, that's being authentic. That's the authenticity that I talk about.
Yes. That's good stuff.
Beautiful. I love this conversation. Thank you for having me today.
Well, we're not quite done. We actually have a few business pieces we have to do. First and foremost, we have to let people know. It's always a good idea. We have to let people know how to find you. I mean, especially somebody who might want to work with you, it'd be a good idea to let them know where to find you. You know,
I know. I've been good at keeping myself the best kept secret, so I'm working really hard at not doing that. The best place to find me is at my website. That brings you to really understand me and helps you see the work that I do, brings you into my story. And that's www.tara- like in a telephone number, Wiskow.com. And I'll make sure that you have that. I know that it's all in my profile. So that's the best place that you can connect with me there. You'll see I have 2 different programs. She Rises, that's my 6-month program where I talk all about authenticity, healing, releasing, letting everything go so you can become the woman that you desire, building the life that you choose to create for yourself. And then Bitchin' Body Revolution. And Bitchin' is BTCHYN for Be the Change You Need, which is my company name. And that's my weight loss program where I help women to shed those pounds through healing and inner work that needs to be done. The most prominent thing that we work through is self-love and self-worth.
Beautiful.
the winning combination right there. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Second thing we like to, we have 3 things at the end. That's the first one. Second one is I go to Jody Lynn because she is marvelous at doing this piece. But Jody Lynn, I don't know if you noticed, she's a note taker.
I've gotten the gist of that. Yes.
Yeah. And she's really good at it. And not only that, not only does she take really good notes, but she knows how to draw out the key pieces. So I always like to find out what the key pieces are. So Jody Lynn, what are the key pieces? What are the takeaways today?
Oh, I think that there was a lot of things that we talked about that were so incredibly important. Authenticity, really becoming yourself, the energetic piece. But I think the one thing that really got me today and really spoke to me was at the very beginning when Tara, you were talking about your experience and what happened with you. Not only was it incredibly emotional, and I could feel that from you in my heart, I felt my heart break for you. And I think the most illuminating portion of that story was that instantaneously you had the awareness that there was choice. And for anybody that's watching or listening to this episode today, I hope that resonated with you, that in any instant, in this very instant, we have the ability to gain awareness of what's going on and instantaneously make a choice that completely changes just the trajectory of our lives and everyone else around us. So Tara, thank you for that message. It's so profound.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. And you are very welcome.
I told you she's good at it. She's really, really good at it.
She's very good at it. Yes, I had no doubts.
Thank you.
Then the final thing I like to do, something I've done for a few years now, now that we live in this wonderful 21st century world where you can be in Minnesota, she's in Alberta, Canada, I'm in Connecticut. I've had people joining from Australia, from the UK, from like all over the world. It's just amazing. And we can do that in a way that was impossible 30, 40 years ago, but now it's like every day. That technology has also given us the ability to coach people, to write books, to create courses, to publish social media, to create YouTube videos. There's all these different ways that we're able to share messages, put information out, help people with the stuff that we learned through our own crash and burn moments, through our own traumatic moments, which is a wonderful thing. The thing that I noticed, though, is very often we're helping people we never meet, never see, and we don't know what happens. But we help them and we don't get credit for it, and we aren't even aware of it. And so we don't even give ourselves credit for it.
Ooh.
And I thought to myself, we should do something about that. And since I'm a podcaster, I can do that because I have guests all the time who need to hear this message. So Tara, on behalf of those people you've never met, never seen, and never will meet, never will see, who you've been helping in ways you didn't even know about just because of all the ways you're sharing your message, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing because you're making a difference in this world.
Oh my gosh, that is so fantastically said. Thank you for that. That's something that you don't think about, you don't connect with, right? You think about how you're in this pod and you feel like you only have 500 followers and you're not affecting lives in a big enough way. And how you just put it really puts me into a whole different perspective of looking at it differently. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for helping get us into a different perspective. We appreciate that so much, and for joining us, and best of luck with what you're doing. And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.